So we'll see whether Bull can, still manage to find those big performances. Has to remember that there's a lot of people watching online, so he's still a superstar. Don't you worry. But he's up against Jiwoo, and Jiwoo has often had his number. I think it's 6-3 or 6, something like that is their matchup score, and 2 of those victories for Bull have come very recently. Vi going to be the first ban here, though, as we jump into the draft. Condom Freaks not wanting to see Sylvie on that one. The Callista taken away, and look at this. I love this from Nongshim. They are actually giving Bull the respect he deserves on the champions he deserves it on.
Yeah, I think it's been made very clear that having that early agency for the Bull and Condom Freaks makes so much of a difference. We even saw them bring out like the Ziggs Pike, where it wasn't necessarily their lane that had the agency, but it was freeing up Andal to make that impact on the map, which actually had some decent success, even though the game didn't go their way up against Gen.G. So, on that line of early impact, the Varus is one of these picks that really can take control of a lane. The options are going the lethality build and really applying pressure. Can go on hit, which isn't going to provide as much in the early levels, just because you're not being as oppressive with the poke, but better at cutting through tanks when it gets to that point. And on the other side, quickly going to take the Zeri and eyeing up the Nocturne.
I think the Zeri is a little dangerous when the Ashe is still up and available. I feel like the double archery is very, very tough for Zeri to be able to survive through with a shorter range. But Nocturne going to come through. I'm sensing a death ball. I really am.
I feel like taking the Nocturne is kind of like setting up for it. Like, take the Ashe, do it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll just try and kill them. And you can see that immediately, it's very clear that Nongshim are going for a more dive-focused, short-range composition. Condom Freaks have adapted and gone, okay, Maokai is here. Try and reach our backline. Give it your best shot. I feel like a Orianna would make a lot of sense here.
Yep.
To the Azir, obviously syncs really well with the Nocturne.
I wouldn't mind the Talia as well. I know that Colmy hasn't found very much recent success, but it is one of his favorite champions. Decent matchup into the Azir as well, and does dissuade a few other picks from coming in. Harder to play things like Cassante, I guess, as he's going to be trying to dash around.
So they will opt for that one. I wonder if they do end up banning the Ashe here, or if they really want to be able to just have a target who they can dive on. Tom Kench might make sense or something. You want to take away is something that can offer that extra element of safety. Renata, definitely something that can cause a lot of issues. On the other side, I feel like for Condom Freaks, that like Dunder's going to have the option of either picking up something like the Cassante on 4 or going for counter pick. So a lot of flexibility in the second rotation for red side. But they're opting to go for the Alistair ban, which has been something pretty popular into Nautilus. We've seen a fair bit.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one for me, just because I think that Peter will be playing Nautilus if he can get his hands on it. Hasn't found that much success recently on the champion itself, but it just feels like a no-brainer to either ban it away or pick it up themselves. They are going to ban it away, though, and I wonder what that means as far as what Peter's going to take into this lane. It might be that we're looking at something a little bit more Enchanter-based, give Dindon a little bit more engaged towards the top side of the map, and allow Peter to go back to his roots in some of his, former Yuumi play and things like that. I hope he doesn't play Yuumi in this game, but you know what I mean, that sort of vibe.
The Cassante ban, it makes sense. I feel like if I was Nongshim, I would have wanted to go Cassante on 4 and then get counter pick for support, so you know what you're up against. If the Quandom Freaks go something more passive, you could pick, like Rakan would be really powerful, but they pick Rakan on 4, which for the team fighting is fantastic. A lot of engaged threat, which they need going up against a strong backline, but Rakan isn't the strongest laner. A lot of vulnerabilities that can be exposed, so I wonder if here Quandom Freaks just commit to like the Ashe and just go, okay, we're just going to win lanes so hard, you don't get to play the game. There is risk involved with that up against a Nocturne, but if the Nocturne ends up falling flat in its face, or the bot lane falls too far behind, maybe they won't be able to bring it back through. Continuing with the anti-dive theme, Aatrox very popular when the enemy teams are going to try and get up close and personal.
Ooh, looks like it might just be
the Maokai support.
The Maokai support, and Maokai support has been picked almost specifically into Rakan.
Yeah.
Just because it's so good at utilizing the Bramble Smash to get him out of there if he does try to run at you and be all charming and stuff like that. Sejuani being the consideration, and this is a very popular team composition at the moment. We'll see whether Bulldog does use the Grasp tech as well on the Azir to just make everyone extraordinarily beefy. What this means for the Varus is going to be an interesting one, because I think that on hit gets a lot more value when you've basically got an entire team full of frontline.
Yeah, there's so many champions on the side of Condom Freaks that can help create space for him, help lock people down. So I think on hit would make more sense in this situation. But I don't think lethality is really that bad, just because there are targets you can connect onto are a bit squishier. I think especially if a Nocturne's going to always be able to close onto you, you know, it's just dealing with him once he gets there. I think on hit makes a lot of sense. And kind of going on what you said, yeah, the Maokai, we've seen him, you know, was still a very popular jungler, but we've seen the support priority rising up.
Yep.
Taking the Rakan into it, it's a pretty rough matchup. You know, one of the things Rakan hates more than anything is point-and-click CC, and that is kind of Maokai's thing, is the W into the Q. So Peter's going to find it difficult navigating these team fights when there is just the ability to lock him down quite comfortably.
But we also have seen that Maokai without resources isn't as dangerous as you may have otherwise expected, right? I think Senna Maokai has really shown that Maokai in the support role can be very, very strong, but he's still pretty squishy if he's just a support. And so we'll see whether that means that he is potentially also food for the Nocturne, whether Sylvie can get around the map and really cause some issues, because otherwise, I think left to their own devices, things like the Nature's Grasp can be so devastating, and like you say, you can really lock down that Rakan if it is just an honest 5v5. So much of this, I think, is just going to have to come down to how the early game goes and what position on the map both of these teams are as we move into the mid to late game, because double pseudo global on the side of Nongshim means they can really